are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, April 4th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we are going to get into the Stefon Diggs trade. I know I touched upon it towards the end of the show yesterday, but I wanted to dive into it again and dedicate a whole segment to it. So we'll talk about it from the Texans' perspective, as well as also talking about what's the future now with the Buffalo Bills. So we'll get into all that. That'll be the second part of the show. And then the third part of the show, I'll talk about Cam Heyward, his comments on Russell Wilson, his recent comments. I'll talk about that. And then in the final part of the show, I'll talk about the Bears and Matt Eberflus' excitement over not just the number 1 overall pick, but also the number 9 overall pick as well, and what the Bears could potentially do with that pick as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft at the end of the month. So with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about, well, something I already talked about yesterday, but want to dedicate a segment to it, and that's Stefon Diggs going to the Houston Texans. So if you remember, I talked about how we have this breaking news feature that I didn't add into the software, and I was trying to do it while we were on the air, but it just didn't really work out. So let's just pretend that the Diggs trade happened now. So this is the breaking news thing. Okay, so you get the idea. So breaking news, not really, but I just wanted to show that just because that's what I was trying to show yesterday. I was trying to set it up towards the end of the show, but it didn't really pan out. But Stefon Diggs going from the Bills to the Texans, and I was kind of surprised. Well, surprised that it was the Texans, because I think we all kind of knew that Diggs leaving the Bills was kind of inevitable, just because of the social media posts over the last couple of seasons. Now, I remember I brought up how Dan Graziano of ESPN, he talked about Diggs' social media activity after the seasons and how everything would kind of get squashed and Diggs would still be with the Bills. Well, not this time. Diggs does indeed get traded. Now, I didn't bring up the specifics of the deal. So the Bills are trading 4-time Pro Bowler wide receiver Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans in exchange for so the Bills, they received a 2025 second-round pick, which was actually the Vikings pick, not even the Texans pick, the Vikings pick, a 2024 sixth-round pick, which is the number 189 overall pick, and the 2025 fifth-round selection. So that's the other thing. The Texans don't even give up any of their picks. They gave away the Vikings pick, and I believe is that the one that they did in the pick swap from the other day with the Vikings trading up. I guess that's what it is. But yeah, this was a slam dunk for the Texans. And I love this trade for them. They add Diggs to an offense that consists of 2 young wide receivers that had breakout seasons. Now, unfortunately for one of them, they ended up getting hurt, and that was Tank Dell. But you expect him to come back, and you hope he's healthy. Nico Collins, who had a breakout season as well. And now you add Stefon Diggs. Now, Stefon Diggs has received some criticism over him declining. And if you go back and you look at his statistics from 2023, I mean, he's still finished with over 1,000 yards. But if you look at some of the individual games, there's a lot of games where Diggs is really not producing. And so you go back to the start of the year. First game of the year against the Jets, he has over 100 yards, has 102 yards receiving and a touchdown. Next game, he has 7 for 66. Against Washington, he had 8 receptions for 111 yards, 6 receptions for 120 yards against the Dolphins, and 3 touchdowns. That was when the Bills, they won like 48-20. Then against Jacksonville in London, he had 8 receptions for 121 yards and a touchdown, 10 for 100 against the Giants. But then after that, never had over 100 yards in a game in the regular season. Had some touchdowns along the way against the Patriots, the Bengals, and the Eagles. But some of the games against Denver, 3 for 34. Against the Jets the second time around, 4 for 27. 4 for 24 against the Chiefs, 4 for 48 against the Cowboys, 5 for 29 against the Chargers, 4 for 26 against the Patriots the second time around. And then in the playoffs, 7 for 52 against the Steelers, 3 for 21 against the Chiefs. And then, of course, everyone talks about that Hail Mary, essentially, that Josh Allen threw up to him, and he dropped it. He could have caught it. Now, you also could say, well, the Bills, they became more of a balanced offense. Josh Allen spreading the ball around more. Because James Cook had some big games as well. So, yeah, Diggs is now in his 30s. There's going to be some decline. I don't think there is as much decline as people may say, but I think he still could be a productive wide receiver, and I think many people, and that's why the Texans did this trade. And again, he's stepping into an offense where he doesn't have to be the guy. Now, I think he still wants to be the guy, but he doesn't have to be. Because, like I said, you have those 2 other receivers that were really productive last year, and they're only going to benefit from the presence of Diggs now on this team. And on top of that, you also have Dalton Schultz, who had a decent year for them. You bring in Joe Mixon to try to bolster this rushing attack. And, of course, you have C.JStroud as your quarterback, who the Texans have done a great job surrounding him with talent. And I'm only expecting bigger things from them in 2024. Right now, you got to look at them as the favorites. And they won last year, and they exceeded expectations. They won a playoff game. Now you add Stefon Diggs, and we still got the draft. We got to see what they're going to do in the draft. I like what they did on defense. I'm excited for the Texans. I kind of wish they signed Saquon Barkley. I wish Barkley went there. Because Barkley, I think, is an upgrade over Mixon. But I think Mixon going to the Texans, that's a good spot for him. But imagine if they got Barkley. But that's a different story. With Diggs, though, I think this is a good spot for him. C.J.Stroud's going to spread the ball around. We know that. So, yeah, there's going to be some games, though, where Diggs is going to, have, like I talked about with his stats from 2023. He's going to have some games where, yeah, he might not light up the stat sheet, but the Texans in 2024 should be able to win a lot of games. So, we'll see how it goes, but I'm really excited about this deal for the Texans. What they have been able to do in just a short amount of time to rebuild this team back up into a playoff team. And now you could look at them as maybe being Super Bowl contenders. Because I think that's what this deal makes them. Gets them closer to that. But you still have to look at the conference and say, well, you got to get through the Ravens. You got to get through the Bengals. And at the top, of the mountain, you got to get past the Chiefs. Got to go through them. And that's going to be tough. That's tough for a lot of teams. So, I think they're up for the challenge. And we'll see what they do with the draft. We still got the draft. But they've made so many improvements. They had a lot of cap space. And they really took advantage of that. And I thought the craziness of the offseason was over. I thought we were going into the draft. No other moves being made, but Stefon Diggs, the latest. And there's still things that need to be figured out with Brandon Ayuk and T. Higgins, so maybe those guys end up getting traded. But Stefon Diggs was traded. It finally happened. And like I said, I'm going to go into now the Bills' perspective of it in the next segment because I wanted to spend it talking about the Texans and what they were able to do and the expectations for them going into next year. Like I said, right now you got to look at them as the favorites. Again, I touched upon this towards the end of yesterday, and I've talked about this division a decent amount. But this division is going to be competitive. And like I said yesterday, Jacksonville's looking to bounce back. Tennessee, we'll see how they are with the new acquisitions of Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard. New head coach, Will Levis in year 2. The Colts, they came up a little bit short, losing to the Texans in Week 18 and missing out on the playoffs. Now you get Anthony Richardson back healthy. Full year of Jonathan Taylor. This division's going to be competitive. But right now, you have to look at the Texans as the favorites. And I am really looking forward to seeing what this team can do on the field with their new acquisitions. On both sides of the ball. Because they also added Danielle Hunter on the defensive side of the ball, too. And Danico Autry from Tennessee to go along with Will Anderson, their stud rookie. They're in a good spot. And the way they're going to knock this draft out of the park with whatever they decide to do. But you got to give them credit because everything that happened with Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien trading away DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, this team was trending down. It was one of the worst teams in the NFL. And if you remember, they won that game against the Colts, final week of the regular season. That was back in 2022. And that win, instead of them getting the number 1 overall pick, they got the 2nd overall pick. Panthers take Bryce Young. They take Stroud. That worked out for them. That really did. And they are looked at right now as one of the best teams in the AFC. Now again, you look at the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Ravens now adding Derrick Henry. I think those teams, I'd probably rank over them still. I'm not putting the Bills in that conversation at the moment. Because they got some things they got to figure out. But I would say you look at those 3 teams, and I would probably rank them over the Texans at the moment. So, but that doesn't mean that the Texans can't beat them. I mean, the Texans, they went into Cincinnati and they beat Joe Burrow. They did that. I mean, we haven't seen how they match up against the Chiefs yet. We will see that in 2024. They'll play the Bills as well. I know the Ravens had their number the 2 times that they faced off, but they're different. Well, the Ravens also added Derrick Henry, so they're a little different as well. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm looking forward to see how the Texans match up against these teams. Again, like I said, they already beat Joe Burrow, but I still have the Bengals ranked ahead of them just because I had respect for them. With the healthy Joe Burrow, they're one of the best teams in the AFC as well. But like I said, at the top of that mountain, It's the Kansas City Chiefs. So, but you know what? I think the Texans could definitely give the Chiefs some problems. They're going to give a lot of teams some problems. So, but let me know what you guys think about this deal for the Texans. Again, love this for them. Now, again, Stefon Diggs with the social media stuff and not getting the ball enough and complaining about that could be an issue because, again, I think Stroud's going to spread the ball around. Everybody's going to get their targets. But it's a great move for them. And, again, they didn't give up their own pick. They gave up Minnesota's second-round pick for next year. So they did a good job with this. And like I said, looking forward to see what the Texans do in 2024. So with that, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about this now from the Bills' perspective, what to expect from them now going into 2024. That is what we will discuss when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to talk about this Stefon Diggs trade now from the Bills' perspective. So let's get into that. Now, when I was talking about the top teams in the AFC, I did not put the Bills there. And that's because of not just the Diggs trade, but just a lot of things that they've done in the offseason. They had to let go of a lot of guys. You saw Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Mitch Morse, their center. They had to let go of some key guys on both sides of the ball. You also saw Gabe Davis leaving as well. He went and signed with Jacksonville. So the Bills are going to look a little different next year. Well, a lot different. And this draft is going to be very important because they have, I think, 10, 11 draft picks. So they're going to have to add to their receiving core through the draft. Again, Tyler Boyd is still out there. He's a possibility. But I know, I just love that I keep talking about him. But they're going to have to do something to bolster this receiving core back up. Now with Diggs being traded. And yeah, right now I can't put them in as one of the top teams in the AFC. Now they have Josh Allen, of course. And Josh Allen, since they got Stefon Diggs, really put himself into that top tier of quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, Patrick Mahomes has separated himself. He's in a tier of his own. With the championships especially, he's in a tier of his own. But I did want to highlight what I saw on CBS's Instagram. So, well, first, he tweeted something, replying to somebody. Somebody tweeted, "Does Josh benefit from having a top-tier receiver? Yes. Is he essential to his success? No." And Diggs responded, "You sure?" with a question mark. And now Diggs was traded. So they posted a graphic of Josh Allen's numbers before Stefon Diggs got there and once Diggs became a Buffalo Bill, was traded to the Bills. He was acquired back in 2020. And the Vikings, well, they went and got Justin Jefferson in the draft. So that worked out for them. So in 2018 and 2019, Josh Allen, completion percentage, 56.3%. Yards per attempt, 6.6. And his touchdown to interception ratio, 30-21. Now, you go to 2020 to 2023 with Diggs now. 65.5% completion percentage. 7.4 yards per attempt. And his touchdown to interception ratio, 137-57. Josh Allen, once they got Diggs, was a different quarterback. Now, you also could credit Brian Dable as well, developing Josh Allen as well. Now, even with Diggs, Josh Allen started to revert back to what he was earlier in his career, turning the ball over a lot more. And they made the switch with the offensive coordinators during the season. And that did kind of work out. The Bills actually were becoming more of a balanced offense. James Cook was getting more involved. Josh Allen didn't have to play hero ball. And that was nice. So, but now, with Diggs not being there anymore, what does that mean for Josh Allen? Is Josh Allen going to completely revert back to how he was before Diggs got there? But again, I went over Diggs' statistics during the season, and there were some games where, yeah, he really wasn't a non-factor. And the Bills were winning games. You got to remember, the Bills, they lost that tough game to the Eagles in overtime, and that looked like that was the end for them. That they just were not, it was going to be too big of a deficit to overcome and make a run to make the playoffs. But they won every single game after that. They made the playoffs, they beat the Steelers, and they had their chance to beat the Chiefs. They couldn't get it done. And look at what the Chiefs had on offense. What Mahomes had to throw to, besides Travis Kelce, and Rashee Rice had a solid rookie season. The Chiefs were coming in, their offense was struggling throughout the year. Travis Kelce was banged up. All the drops that they had in crucial moments, whether it was Valdez-Scantling, whether it was Kadarius Toney, the Chiefs still were able to find a way and get back to the Super Bowl and win it. The Bills, you still had Diggs. You had Gabe Davis. Well, actually, Gabe Davis didn't even play in the playoff game against the Chiefs. But this was the Bills' chance. And they just couldn't get it done. And now Diggs is gone. But this is something that has been boiling up for a while. Ever since the AFC Championship game loss, where Diggs was out there watching the Chiefs celebrate, this is something that was in the making for a while. It's just, like I talked about in the first segment with Dan Graziano, Diggs would post something on social media, things would get settled out, things would work out, and we'd move on, and he'd be a Buffalo Bill. But it's not the case. He's gone now. And maybe the Bills did the right thing because maybe that decline was going to continue, and him maybe being a head case with the offseason drama, while he has value, trade him. Now, they got a 2025 second rounder out of him. Maybe they could have got something better. I don't know. But there was a lot of factors into Diggs being traded. And it's just the latest of players to leave the Bills, whether it's them releasing them or trading them. A lot of guys from this era where they're making the playoffs and they made the AFC Championship game and now they just couldn't get past the divisional round. A lot of these guys are gone now, so they got to revamp. And they bring in Curtis Samuel, another wide receiver. And this was, with Diggs still on the team. Now he's not there, so is Curtis Samuel now the lead number one receiver? And they got a couple of nice tight ends. They still got Dawson Knox. You've got Dalton Kincaid, who you're going to continue to see improve. Still got James Cook. Khalil Shakir, he was playing really well down the stretch. But the Bills got to add. They got to revamp. They lost a lot of guys on defense. And, yeah, Diggs, it's going to have an impact. Whether people say he was declining or not. Diggs is still a good receiver. But, again, there's a ton of receivers in this draft. Now, they're not going to get the top guys unless they somehow trade up, which I don't think that's going to happen. So, you could see them getting somebody in the late first round. That's probably what they're going to end up doing, whether it's that or they go defense. But I think you could expect them going after a receiver. I mean, and again, they have a ton of picks, so that's probably the route they're going to go. But again, I don't really look at the Bills right now as one of the top teams in the AFC, and also the AFC East. That it's going to be it's not going to be a slam dunk for who's going to win that. The Patriots are rebuilding. Right now we got to see how they address the quarterback position in this draft. So they're not really a part of that conversation. You got the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets. And right now, a healthy Jets squad, that team could definitely be the team that does it and wins the division. Because, again, the Bills are weaker. The Dolphins, they have question marks with Tua as their quarterback. And they had to make a lot of subtractions in the offseason on defense. Now, they've tried to fill those gaps. They signed Shaquille Barrett. They signed Jordan Poyer. And, again, we still have the whole draft. So, I think you really have to make a full assessment of everything once the draft is complete. But right now, the way everything is, I look at the Jets as the favorites. Or the Dolphins. But, again, the Bills, they still have Josh Allen. And I know I talked about what Josh Allen was before Diggs got there and once he was there. Well, now, what is he going to be like after Diggs, the post-Diggs era? He's a different quarterback than he was when he first got into the league. So, you could say, well, you're losing Diggs, so you're going to have to feel some impact. Yeah, but are we going to see the Josh Allen that he was before they got Diggs, or not? I mean, he's been turning the ball over even with Diggs. So, but well, again, we'll just have to wait and see. And again, you got a whole draft. So the Bills are definitely going to address the wide receiver position in this draft, and they'll figure it out. But what's going to happen now if the Bills don't finish with a good record? Is that going to be it for Sean McDermott? We'll see. But, yeah, this era of Bills football, I mean, these last couple of seasons, I don't know about, not really last year, but the previous two, people looked at the Bills as the favorites to maybe go to the Super Bowl. Or at least 2022, that was the year. Because they got off to that roaring start, first two games of the season. And they, once again, knocked down the divisional round. You went from AFC Championship game to divisional round loss to the Chiefs, divisional loss to the Bengals, and then divisional loss to the Chiefs. 3 out of the 4 years. Well, and the year before, 2019 they made it without Diggs. And they lost to Deshaun Watson. And they had a lead in that game. And then Deshaun Watson came back and they won that thriller. But with Diggs, the Bills lost 3 out of 4 to the Chiefs. And they also lost to the Bengals. And the Chiefs have won Super Bowls. They won back-to-back Super Bowls. it's tough. The Bills just could not get past the Chiefs, and at home against the Bengals, they lost 27-10. Yeah, what could have been? What could have been? But let me know what you guys think about the Bills. How do you see them approaching the draft? And where would you rank the Bills right now among the teams in the AFC after this Diggs trade? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we are going to talk about Cam Heyward talking about Russell Wilson. Before we go into break, though, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show. Makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about the Steelers, talk about Cam Heyward, commenting on Russell Wilson's potential impact with the team. So that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Cam Heyward, his comments on Russell Wilson joining the Steelers. So he was on the Rich Eisen's show and talked about Russ. And this is a couple of things that he had to say. And this is courtesy of an article from CBSSports.com. So he said, you just look for the leadership. You just look for the leadership for a guy that has been in Seattle and won games. Won a Super Bowl already, didn't have the best time in Denver, but I think he's a hungry guy that is ready to prove people wrong. We have so many great weapons. Some of them are younger. Having a more established guy who has been through it is going to benefit the group. I think it could be a blend of both. I think he can have a balanced game and excel. Not many people beat Patrick Mahomes last year, but Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos did. I know it's not one guy that gets it done, but Russ has done it in this game and knows how to beat top competition. So, yeah, that is true. Russell Wilson did beat Patrick Mahomes. I know people forget, but he did do that last year. Actually, the Broncos played the Chiefs tough last year. I mean, even the first game. I mean, the final score was, 19-8? And I took the Broncos in my spread pool, and they were covering because if you remember, Sutton caught that one-handed touchdown, right? They reviewed it, and it was a touchdown, and then they got the 2-point conversion, and they were covering. And then the Chiefs got in the field goal range. Butker kicked the field goal, and the Chiefs backdoored it, and I ended up losing that game. But that's a separate thing. So, Cam Heyward is positive about Russell Wilson joining the Chiefs. But, for some people, they're not really expecting that much out of Russ. Also, the other thing I want to touch upon, and this was a comment on one of my videos. This was a Steelers topic from the other day. And this is from Choose Carefully 408, who's been commenting on a lot of things on our videos. Not just mine, but many others as well. Because this was, I talked about Russell Wilson and him, and the Steelers' initial plans were keep Kenny Pickett, have Russell Wilson mentor Kenny Pickett. So I just wanted to read this comment as well. So this is what he said. This is Choose Carefully, at Choose Carefully 408. So he said, everyone knows that Russell Wilson does not speak to his teammates. This is off the field as well as on it. This bizarre idea that he will mentor anyone is 100% a fiction made up by Steelers fans. Russ will save us, then Fields will learn from him and take over. This is now with Fields. Is an infantile fantasy based on him being on their team, not based on anything that'll happen. I hope they get Boyd because they need more than Pickens. Oh, yeah, this is also the Tyler Boyd stuff, too. I can only imagine the holdup is the price because he's the only receiver currently available that can impact this offense. So all the negotiating power with the Steelers is his. But Watkins and Jefferson were available for other reasons, and no one wants them to be even their number 3. Yeah, I can't really argue with that. This team has no depth anywhere. They need a Boyd and one more half-decent receiver. Well, I don't know if I would say they have no depth anywhere. But that is true, though, because they did bring in Van Jefferson and Quez Watkins, who Van Jefferson was previously with the Falcons. Before that, the Rams. Quez Watkins was with the Eagles. So the Steelers, they signed him because, yeah, they need receivers right now because they traded Deontay Johnson. But you have Cam Heyward, who talks about Russell Wilson and leadership, and then you also have Choose Carefully commenting that Russ doesn't really have, a relationship with his teammates, with some of them. And I think both things are true in a way. It's just kind of strange how when Russell Wilson went to Denver, you had so many things coming out about him, and especially with him having his own office and things like that. It just was very strange. And especially all the memes with the Broncos country, let's ride stuff. Because Russell Wilson with Seattle, everybody loved him, and he was looked at as a leader. And you saw that on the playoff runs with Seattle, going to the Super Bowl. It just seemed like Russ was a leader, and that kind of took a knock once he went to Denver. Because, you even saw players yelling at him on the sidelines, too. Not just Sean Payton yelling at him. This was not good for the Russell Wilson brand the last couple of years. But 2023, 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. You look at that, you're like, yeah, it's a good season. So he did kind of, in a way, have a bounce-back season. And at one point, the Broncos, first they looked like they were going to have one of the worst records in the NFL. Then it looked like, maybe they'll find their way into the playoffs. And then it just ended up not happening. And Jarrett Stidham ended up taking over as the starter. But 2023 was better for Russ. But collectively, his stint in Denver was not great. So he's looking to bounce back. And Cam Heyward saying he's hungry, that he's, maybe we're going to see the Russ from Seattle. I've been saying all along, I don't know if we're going to see that because last 2 years in Denver, although 2023 was decent, there's still some things you got to look at and say, yeah, I don't think we're getting that Russ. And with the Steelers, Cam Heyward talks about the weapons. You got George Pickens, you got Pat Freiermuth. They traded Deontay Johnson. They need to bring in another receiver or two. I did say Tyler Boyd to the Steelers is a long shot, according to the article I was looking at. But they got to look at the draft. That's definitely where they're going to address the position, is drafting a receiver. Because you need somebody else besides George Pickens. And again, I love the duo. Well, I shouldn't say I love, but I like the duo of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. But you need receivers. So Cam Heyward talks about all the weapons they have. Well, you got George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth in terms of, throwing the ball. But it's kind of it. I don't think Van Jefferson and Quez Watkins are going to scare people. So you do have Calvin Austin as well. He made a couple of plays for them last year. But you need somebody else. Now, for me, with the Steelers, I think they're going to be decent because that's just how it is with them, is they find a way to make the playoffs. And, they end up losing, but they've been able to make it in. They could have made it in 2022. They finished 9-8. But they fell just short of that. But with Mike Tomlin as the head coach, teams find a way to make it. I mean, how many times do I talk about what happened with them in 2023? The quarterback changes and somehow finding a way in, still losing to the Bills, but they found a way in. And now with a completely different quarterback room with Russell Wilson, with Justin Fields, and they're backed by one of the best defenses in the NFL, with arguably the best defensive player in the NFL in T.J. Watt. The Steelers could find a way in this loaded AFC. But for me, again, it's going to be through the wild card, because I look at the Ravens as being a better team. I look at the Bengals as being a better team if they're healthy Joe Burrow. Then it's between you and the Browns, which I put them on the same level. I put those two teams on the same level. They split last year. So, I mean, we'll see what happens in 2024, but... And again, that doesn't mean, like, the teams are bad. This division is loaded. I mean, how many times have I said that? It's a gauntlet of a division in a gauntlet of a conference. But I think the best way for the Steelers to make the playoffs is through the wild card. And Russell Wilson's the starter. They've made that known. And Justin Fields is going to sit behind him. So, we'll see what happens. But Cam Heyward's at least positive about it. Thinks that this could be a good move for the Steelers and expect good things out of Russ. We'll see. We'll see. And, I mean, I don't think we're going to see Russ put up numbers like he did in Seattle. But the Steelers always find a way. And we'll see if they find a way once again in 2024. You also got to make sure you guys on defense stay healthy too, because TJ Watt's like the quarterback of the defense. Is the quarterback of the defense. And when he's not playing, the Steelers are a different team. So, I think the Steelers are going to be... They'll finish with a decent record because that's just what they do. But we'll see if it's enough to make the playoffs. And we'll see if Justin Fields takes the field at all. Or is Russ going to basically be the starter from start to finish? I don't know. It's going to be interesting, something to keep an eye on. But Cam Heyward's positive. So we'll see. I mean, again, that doesn't mean that Russell Wilson's going to go out there and play at an MVP type level. But at least you have a player on the team that says, you know what, this guy's played in big games. He knows what it takes. It didn't really work out in Denver. But now with this change of scenery, let's see what he can do. Yeah, you get traded to the Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett's a first-time head coach. I mean, you thought with the talent that the Broncos had, at least at that time, that it didn't matter. They were going to be a good team, but it just didn't pan out. The offense struggled. Russ struggled. They had a rough season. Sean Payton comes in. Sean Payton wasn't a Russell Wilson fan. So that wasn't going to work. Even though at one point you thought, oh, the Broncos might make the playoffs. Now he's with the Steelers. And let's see. And the Steelers are a team that finds a way. So let me know what you guys think, though, about Cam Heyward's comments. Do you guys think that Russell Wilson could maybe turn back the clock in 2024 and go out there and play to how he did with Seattle? Or is it going to be kind of more of the same with the Broncos? Which, again, that's something I kind of lean towards. But again, still think the Steelers have a chance to make the playoffs. Maybe win a playoff game? Maybe. Because they haven't done that in a long time. It's not since 2016 when they beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals. I know I brought that up on a previous show, but bringing it up again. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this, what Cam Heyward had to say. So we're going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about Justin Fields' old team. We'll talk about the Bears, talk about Matt Eberflus, his excitement over not just the number 1 overall pick, but also the number 9 overall pick, and what the Bears could potentially do at that selection. So, with that being said, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about the Bears and Matt Eberflus' excitement over the number 9 overall pick that the Bears also have. So he's excited about the possibility for the teams, what they could do at the number 9 pick. Eberflus, he believes that the number 9 overall pick is a valuable spot where they can secure a blue player who fits their needs. Blue player, like in quotations. The Bears, talked about the Bills earlier, but the Bears, they had a good offseason. And they finally did move off of Fields. I really liked what the Bears did. Signing DeAndre Swift, trading for Keenan Allen. I mean, I think they really knocked it out of the park this offseason. And let's see what they do. And they paid Jalen Johnson, their top corner. I like what they've done. Now, they're playing in a tough division, but now they just got to figure out the quarterback. If they can get the quarterback right, then they got a chance to be really competitive in 2024. And it's going to be Caleb Williams. The Bears could shock us and draft somebody else, but it's most likely going to be Caleb Williams. I know I keep saying that, but it's just there's always that chance that they could just do something else. But yeah, if Caleb Williams, if he is the guy, and you got all these weapons around him, with already the weapons they had there with Cole Kmet and obviously DJ Moore, the Bears should be competitive. And also the defense improved last season. Montez Sweat was a good trade for them, and they paid him. So you got to like what the Bears have done, and let's see what they do in the draft. But, Eberflus feels the team is positioned to take a positive step forward in 2024, especially considering the pressure he faced regarding his job security in 2023. Yeah, I mean, the Bears did end the season better. But now they're going to have a new quarterback. I mean, this was Justin Fields at quarterback. Now you got a rookie quarterback coming in there. So, but again, there's a lot of talent that they will be surrounded by. With their refreshed outlook, the Bears can focus on choosing the best player available at number 9, benefiting from the depth at various positions in the draft. The draft is expected to feature quarterbacks going, with the first 3 picks. So, and they have one of them, obviously. But it's going to be interesting what the Bears now do with this number 9 overall pick. Because with a lot of other teams, they could also trade down. But, like I just said, they could draft the best player available. Would it be possible that they add another receiver? I took a look at, Field Yates, he predicts that, his recent mock draft, but yeah, he predicts that they'll take Caleb Williams. And then in this mock draft, he has the Bears getting Washington's wide receiver, Roma Dunze, if he falls to number 9. Dunze is highly regarded by Field Yates, ranking 6th on his board, and offers a combination of size, body control, and instincts that make him a threat at all levels of the field. But if Dunze is unavailable, the Bears could consider selecting offensive tackle Joe Alt or edge rusher Dallas Turner, both top prospects at their respective positions. So they could fall back and take another edge rusher, because I did see something that said that, I think Eberflus said, he's looking for someone to be opposite of Montez Sweat. And if they draft an edge rusher, if that's what they have to do, if they can't get a Dunze, if that was their plan A, well, he could be their plan B. Or if you want to bolster that offensive line, you go with Joe Alt, who's regarded as the best tackle in this draft, or one of the best tackles in the draft. So the Bears can do a lot of different things. It'll be interesting. Because Marvin Harrison Jr., if you want to go wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to get taken before they pick. Malik Neighbors, it seems like he's going to be taken. So yeah, it might come down to either a Dunze or Brian Thomas Jr. At least this is what I'm getting from the stuff I've seen. I mean, if they get Roma Dunze, pair him up with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, I mean, that's not bad. Again, you're only giving your quarterback, the rich get richer. Your rookie quarterback's going to have some good weapons, even though they already have them. But if you add a Dunze to that, I mean, again, the rich get richer. But I don't know if I should be saying that about the Bears, just because, the Bears have had their problems over the years. Particularly when it's to finding their franchise quarterback. You look at what they did when they got Mitchell Trubisky, what they gave up to get him. And then, of course, they drafted Justin Fields, and now he's not there anymore. Now you have the golden opportunity to have the number 1 overall pick. And, yeah, they're going to draft the best quarterback available, which is going to be Caleb Williams. But, again, there's always maybe they shock us and do something else, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I did want to pull up Roma Dunze's stats, if that's indeed what they decide to do. And I think I have talked about his stats before. But so in 2023, 92 receptions, 1,640 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown as well. The previous season in 2022, he had 75 receptions for 1,145 yards and 7 touchdowns, and another rushing touchdown as well. So, yeah, he's coming off of a great year in 2023, and he'd be that number 3 wide receiver, which, again, would not be bad. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. I mean, we'll see. He could go there, maybe the Jets. I know I brought up the Jets maybe being a team that could draft him as well. I mean, those top 4 receivers are going to go within the first 15 picks, right? 15, 20 picks? I mean, well, probably say 15. Because Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting picked in the top 5. Malik Neighbors right there as well. Then it's those other 2 receivers. Where are they going to go? Again, this is just from what I'm seeing. If I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. But that's at least what I've seen from that it's going to be those 2 guys, and then it's the other 2, Dunze and Brian Thomas. But yeah, the Bears are another team that can do a lot of different things with this number 9 overall pick. Now, what would probably be the right thing for them to do? Do they draft another playmaker? Do they draft a lineman? They draft an edge rusher? I think you probably... I mean, for me, I think you probably would lean more towards an offensive lineman or add to the defense. Add an edge rusher. Because, again, like I said, I did see, I think, yeah, it was Eberflus saying that he wants to add someone to go along with Montez Sweat. So maybe that's where they go. But if you go and draft one of these receivers, you're not going to get any complaints from Bears fans. They're going to be going crazy. But, I mean, it's the same thing with the Jets, too. Because they could draft one of these receivers. They probably will be able to. But what would be more important? Draft an offensive lineman for depth. Because, you got an aging quarterback, and some of the linemen that they did bring in have an injury history. So maybe you want to draft a lineman for depth. And they could do that throughout the draft. Might not be their first pick. Might be with some of their other picks. Same thing with the Bears. The Bears could just say, you know what? We want to take another receiver, and then we'll get some linemen and guys on defense with the rest of our picks. I think, for me, I'd probably lean towards you take a lineman, you take an edge rusher, or someone on defense, another position on defense with that first pick, because with the offense, you have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. You have weapons. You got a couple of decent running backs. So I think you're kind of set. Maybe you want to go towards addressing other positions that may be more important, like the lineman, like an offensive lineman, like adding a player on defense. But that's just me. Because with the Jets, you look at their receiving core outside of Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams is coming back from an ACL injury, and Allen Lazard had a rough season. The Jets, I could see them being more likely to adding another playmaker, even though they, I think, need more offensive linemen for depth. But, again, that's just me. But we'll see. I mean, listen, the Bears are in a good spot. They're in a good spot. Again, we'll see how Eberflus is now in 2024. I know during our production meeting, Tommy, our college football podcast host, he was talking up the offensive coordinator for the Bears, because we were talking about the Bears. Yeah, I mean, listen, you could have a defensive-minded head coach, but as long as you have a solid offensive coordinator, that can work. Because the way the league is now, there's so many offensive guys. But with the Bears, they have a defensive head coach. But if you have a solid offensive coordinator, then, that could work. But we got to see what the Bears do at quarterback now. And how... most likely Caleb Williams, how is he going to be when he steps in and he's that guy in Chicago? We'll have to find out. But and we will find out, sure enough, at the end of the month when the NFL draft comes around. So, but let me know what you guys think about this. What do you think the Bears are going to do with this number 9 overall pick? Do you think they're going to keep it and draft one of these, the best player available, or could they possibly trade back? Because, again, that's also another possibility. Or they could just trade away their picks and Tyson Bagent is the starting quarterback. No. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Again, I thought everything was over. I thought all the craziness was over. But then all of a sudden, yesterday, towards the end of the show, Stefon Diggs ends up getting traded to the Houston Texans. Like I said, really excited about that for the Texans. Love the direction that they're going in. Myself, as well as many others, are definitely expecting bigger things out of them in 2024. I'm really looking forward to them. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they could do, because they have had a great offseason. And again, you got the draft. For the Bills, they got a lot of things that they have to address. Revamping this receiver core, revamping the defense. we'll see how the new look Bills look next year. And again, we also touched upon Cam Heyward talking up Russell Wilson. So we'll see how Russell Wilson is in his new spot, being the Steelers quarterback. And we touched upon the Bears. And they're 2 top 10 picks. And if you're a Bears fan, you're hoping that, listen, it's great that you could get 2 solid players out of these picks, hopefully. But hopefully for the Bears fans, this is the last time you're picking in the top 10 for a while. Because right now they're putting together a good team. Now they just got to go out there and show that they are a good team. But like I said, they play in a tough division. And they got a rookie quarterback. They're going to have a rookie quarterback, so we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me for today. That is all the time that we have. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.